Hey guys, what's going on? Most of us know that protein is an important part of our diet. But did you know choosing the wrong protein every night, a majority of the week, to have with your dinner or lunch can cause health related conditions that you don't want and ultimately lead to a premature death? That's why there are many key factors to consider when choosing your next protein to include in one of these meals. The reason why I chose this topic is because I'm a meat cutter and I've been a meat cutter with Publix for the past 3 years. I was also a seafood specialist for a year, so it's what I do for a living. I'm well informed on the topic and also have done extensive research, so I got you covered. I'm going to go now. When I say red meat, I'm referring to generally beef, lamb, pork. Some other people, like venison or something, but that's what I'm referring to. Now, my main point is going to be, my first main point is going to be that red meat is a good protein choice, but it doesn't come without its risks and, let's say, disadvantages. It's still good in moderation, maybe once or twice a week, but we'll get into that. My second point is poultry is a good protein source, serving as a good alternative to red meat, but it doesn't come with as many risks and disadvantages as red meat does. It's kind of already giving it an advantage right there. My third main point is going to be fish is a healthy protein choice, a very healthy protein choice. Now, why it varies, of course, from fish to fish. Generally, fish are very high in protein and very low in fat, very lean. So like I said, my first point is red meat is a good protein choice, but it doesn't come without its risks and disadvantages in comparison to these other proteins here I have on the table. So let's start with the good stuff. According to BBC Health, red meat is a rich source of iron and is important in preventing conditions like anemia. Basically because the iron, that's also why when you see the red meat, you see that red look there. That's the reason why when we bleed it comes out red too, is the iron. So it's a very good source of iron along with vitamin B12 and many other nutrients. But generally that's what you'll kind of see is that B12 and iron. Second, eating red meat does have a place in a healthy diet as long as you moderate your intake and choose the right cuts of beef, such as anything that says loin or eye, roast. Generally, those are going to be, or sirloin tip. Generally, those are going to be the leaner cuts. Though the American Heart Institution for Cancer Research suggests avoiding processed meat and limiting red meat intake to no more than 18 ounces. Some people can do 18 ounces of red meat in one sitting. 18 ounces isn't much. It's about 1 or 2 meals a week. This is the reason why they put that warning out, is because the cholesterol and the fat in the red meat is very high. It's the highest amongst the three. And a Harvard Medical School study over 120,000 people over 28-year period time actually did find that red meat is associated with a 13% higher risk of total mortality. It's unbelievable. That's big. So that's something definitely to consider when you're thinking of having red meat in your next meal. So at least they give you a couple of reasons why to include, have protein and have red meat as your next protein, or maybe why you won't have it in your next meal, such as those cholesterol and those health risks. So my second point is going to be poultry is a good source of protein, serving as a suitable alternative to red meat without those risks. I mean, there's no warning out there that says, hey, don't eat chicken 7 times a week. It's just how much chicken you eat and what part of the chicken. Poultry is a good source of protein. It's very high in protein. And like I said, as long as you stick to the leaner cuts, like for here I have the chicken breast. It's very lean, very low in fat. And definitely go for skinless. Skin is very high in fat. You don't want, generally try to stay away from skin. Skin once a week won't kill you. No, but just generally go for the skinless lean cuts. excuse me here. Chicken has less cholesterol. Like I said, that was one of the big things here is the red meat has a very high amount of cholesterol. Chicken has less cholesterol than red meat. So it's kind of giving it the edge there. Also less saturated fat. So that's why you don't get those heart-related health warnings about chicken like you do red meat. So now I've kind of given you a couple reasons why maybe to consider poultry in placement of, or just, maybe why you should include poultry in your next meal. So on to fish. Fish is a very healthy protein choice. Very healthy protein choice to pick. While it varies from fish to fish, generally they're very lean, low in fat, and high in omega-3s, which neither of these two last ones I discussed have omega-3. They're not found in red meat or poultry whatsoever. And omega-3s is a very good, most of us have probably heard of omega-3s, but omega-3s are very good for joint health, anti-inflammation. It's so healthy, in fact, that you'll see that fish oil is one of the most recommended supplements for everyone, no matter what age they are taking, because of those omegas. Of course, instead, you can just have it about 2 or 3 times a week. So, lower fat content, omegas, high in protein. Fish is great. The American Heart Association even recommends eating fish, particularly the fatty fish, about 2 to 3 times a week. Now, when I say fatty, fatty meaning those omega-3s. Now, omega-3 is a form of fatty acid, so don't get that confused with something that's high in cholesterol and saturated fat. Omega-3 is a very clean and healthy fat. People even supplement it, like I said. So it's definitely something that is kind of something to consider big time. Now, overall, fish is an excellent protein to build your plate around or to include in your weekly regimen of meals. I would recommend, along with the American Heart Association recommends, 2 or 3 times a week. Doesn't hurt to do more. That's at least 2 or 3 times. So in conclusion, there are many key factors to consider when choosing your next protein, or choosing your protein for your next meal. We went over all 3 of these proteins. We went over some benefits of each, and we also went over some disadvantages. Like I said, red meat is a good protein choice, but it doesn't come without those risks and warnings. And, the fat, it's also very slow to digest. My second point was poultry is a good source of protein, serving as a good alternative to that red meat. It doesn't come with all those risks and warnings, and just picking the right parts of the chicken is important. You want to stay lean. You want to avoid the skin. Go for a skinless chicken breast. Keep it simple. Does it hurt to have thighs or skinless breast with skin on it? No. Just maybe once a week, that's great. But just if you're eating a lot of chicken, go for the lean cuts like the breast. My third point is fish was a very healthy protein source. Fish is great. It's recommended, unlike the other two, like I said, not that poultry is recommended against, but fish is actually recommended for everyone to eat at least 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, that's a big difference there. So your body is important, and what goes into it is just as equally as important. Be careful how much red meat you eat, and when it comes to chicken, as long as you're not eating the fatty acids, the fatty parts, the skin or the dark cuts of the chicken like the thighs, it's good protein. Fish is excellent. Not only are you getting those benefits, you're not getting as much fat, you're getting that leaner protein source, and it's actually recommended. You wouldn't want to end your life prematurely, would you? Just because you want a burger every single night of the week? No, you wouldn't. Be smart. Consider what you're putting into your body, and definitely consider these things, like I said, next time you pick a meal.